this is part 2 to Mount Massive. So I left the last shot at a tree structure, and I'm going to get back to that tree structure here in a bit. But this is the sign that I came across when I was doing my hike up to this point, and I discovered this after the fact. But I want you to get a glimpse of this thing. So you see that little box thing that's right here in the picture. Put your information in that, and day use and nighttime do that, because I didn't do that, and I didn't see this box because I didn't enter in from the parking lot. I entered in from the side from where I was camping, and I really wanted to see the land behind the sign because it was most important for me, and I didn't think I needed to actually check this thing out, but you do. And I have filled out my paperwork, and I put that inside these boxes, just in case, because you never know when something stupid is going to happen. And stupid does happen to a lot of campers and a lot of hikers and day use people and mountain bikes and all kinds of people. There's all kinds of things that happen. But yeah, I just wanted to touch base on this thing. There was a couple of things that happened that previous night before I got to this sign. And one of the things that had happened, we had a couple of young ones that were camping next to the river, and I was outside of the car at night. Everybody else was in their tents. Darla was in the car, and JC is one of the young ones, and his girlfriend were down by the river. And JC is Darla's grandson. They're camped right next to the river's edge. I would never do that, but they did. They wanted to be close to the water. At some point at night, they heard something come walking up through the river, and they heard it. They heard it stomping through the river like a bipedal something was walking towards them through the river and stopped right outside their tent. And their eyes were wide open, looking up at their tent. And they could just hear something breathing, sitting right outside the tent. After about 30, 40 minutes, the sound went away, and they figured whatever it was gone. Well, she decided she had to go to the bathroom and she needed an escort. So she had asked JC to walk her, to the bathrooms, which really weren't too far from us. And he did that. So once they got there, she went inside, and he turned around, and he was just kind of looking around at the stars and stuff. And he noticed that there was these glowing objects in the trees right across from the bathrooms staring at him. And he was a little caught off guard by this. It kind of spooked him. And he turned around, he knocked on the door and said, "Hey, do you mind if I come in?" And she's like, "No, go on, come on in." And he went in. And they waited, because he told her what he had seen. And they waited for a little bit, and then they looked outside. There were no more glowing eyes, and they made it back to their campsite. Now, before that had happened, I was outside with my night vision camera, just looking at the stuff behind the structures behind the campsite. I could see everybody's tents and everything, and I was kind of scanning the area and not filming or anything. And I focus in on this one structure, and I see something get thrown, and I track it. I'm tracking it up, and then I lose sight of it, and it lands to my left. In fact, it lands so close to me that it was less than an inch away from my foot. And I looked down at it, and I looked over at them. I said, "Duly noted. It's time for me to go to bed." And I turned off the camera, went inside the car, locked it up, and went to sleep. So the next morning, we had breakfast, and JC was telling me about the event that he and his girlfriend had experienced. And I said, "Oh, okay, show me." And he took me over, and we were discussing it, and goes, do they have glowing eyes? I went, yeah, they do. They're self-illuminating. So it's really kind of cool. And he says, it's neat that you got to see it. And he goes, yeah, they were close. And I said, they were really close. They were so close to them that if they wanted to snatch them, they could have easily done it. But again, I haven't had that experience. I haven't had a reason for them to take me or apparently take JC or his girlfriend. No reason. They just were watching them. They let them do their thing. That was it. They were observing. That's primarily what I normally see them do. Now, if you're doing something stupid in the woods, yeah, expect something to have a repercussion to it. There's always a reason for something to happen. And if you're doing something that they don't like, you're going to get something in return out of it. And it may not be what you want. And in fact, it may be where that you never want to go back into the woods again. So we leave, we go back to the campsite. We were just talking about stuff from that point. So I grabbed my cameras and all my stuff at the time, and I went for a hike. And this is what I'm going to show you. See which way we're going to go with this. So this is Mount Elbert over here on this side. And I was looking at this thing right here. This looks like a face to me. It looks like a primate's face. Here's the lower jaw here. Here's the lip. Here's the upper lip, some teeth, like an area for the eyes. And I thought this was hilarious when I was looking at it. And then I got a closer shot of it, and I was like, oh my God, is that freaky looking? Because here's the so-called eyes, the brow, the long, like if the nose was flattened, you wouldn't see it so much. Then you got the teeth here, the mouth, and then you got the lower jaw, and then the chin. And I thought, oh my God. And then I kind of started noticing that there were people way up on this thing, and I thought, oh, that's crazy. There is a path somewhere up here that people were climbing, because I was watching them going, my God, those are people way up there. And I want to say that I should have gotten some photographs of them walking around, because the path is like right here. There's a path right here. And I had seen people walking this and hiking this. And I thought, wow, that's crazy. That's way up there. And one of my goals was to get up there, because I wanted to be way above tree line and to hike around, but I never got up that far. This is the one of the parking lots that you come to. And Mount Elbert is on this side. Mount Massive is over here to our right. So if you don't think that there's plenty of places for Bigfoot to hide, you're wrong. There's plenty of places for them to go. And there's plenty of places for them to hide off in the woods. In Colorado, Washington State, Oregon, Alaska, Canada, the upper part of the United States, all the way down through California, just about everywhere they could be hanging out. And unless you go looking for them, you're never going to find them. But you might find their signs that they were either there at one point in time, or maybe they were there at some other point in time. This is the river that our campsite is way down this way. And I thought this was kind of cool. I saw fish swimming around inside here. This is the stream or river that divides Mount Massive from the campsites. So there's a part of the Colorado Trail that goes up alongside this part of the mountain. This is a photograph that I had taken, and I thought I was looking at a teepee, but once I started looking at it, I kind of saw some odd things around it. Now, granted, this is just a leaner. But sometimes I think leaners have more of a purpose. If you wanted to go and climb up something really quickly, you could probably climb up this just fine without the fear of it falling down. And it takes you up into the tree quickly, so you're not just scurrying up the side of, or the inside of a tree making noise. You just run right up the side of it, and then you have a quick advantage point. A few of the odd things I noticed about this is that there's some crazy tree breaks, and there's a tree break that's right here. There is a tree that's back here, and it comes up and it's broken once or twice here, and it comes down on the inside of this tree break, and it appears to be busted and going back underneath, which would make this pretty darn interesting. On the reverse side, I saw these things, and this looks like a cave. Actually, let's go zoom back to this thing real quick. This looks like a possible cave in here, because there's a really dark patch of something there, and I'm thinking this is a cave. And the reason why I think that, because I think this is a rock face. If that's a tree, that's the biggest darn tree I've ever seen, and I've never seen anything stick out horizontal like this before, unless it's a rock. And this almost looks like there's some covering or something on this, some type of foliage that's somewhat covering it. And I have seen structures or Bigfoot homes that have been covered up by foliage before, and to me that's an intriguing sign. And then you have something over here too that equally looks like there's a lot of coverage going on over here as well. So this would be a fun spot to take Jim and maybe go camping back up in here sometime and explore this spot a little bit more. That looks like maybe an X. No, that's not an X. That would have been cool. Now in this area, if you ever venture here, just about every campsite when you first pull in has a structure around it, or at least it did. There was a teepee structure, and underneath that teepee structure was a campsite. There was an X, right underneath the X was a campsite. And it was really intriguing to see all of these unique structures, and then you see a campsite associated to it. And I thought that was pretty slick. At first I thought maybe the National Park or the Forestry Service had something to do with it, and then I started looking at those structures carefully when there were no campers around, and I noticed that there was no bolts in the trees holding things together. It was all supported by the other trees. It was pretty darn neat. So I started walking back behind, like our campsite is to the left or to the right, and I started walking back, and I was going and I was finding these different areas of different things, of trees that were laid down. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I kept seeing different things that kind of stood out, a little different. And I was looking at the geometric patterns, and there's no reasons for a Forestry Service person to grab a tree and lay it down and bring down another tree and laying up to it. And I just started noticing oddities on the ground. And this is one of the times I started really picking up on that there are some strange geometric patterns going on the ground. Even though this tree here was cut, someone looks like came along and may have cut this with a chainsaw, but I really can't tell from this photograph because this could have been a beaver chewing through it as well. But the tree was dropped. At some point it fell, and it could have fallen because someone was digging around the base of it, because it looks like it was pulled up a little bit. It does look a little bit on the rotting of the wood side too that may have caused this tree to fall. But again, don't have any idea. Is that on? Okay, so I have to stop this for a second and go back to other series of photographs. So while I was photographing stuff, I was looking into the trees, and I thought I was seeing things. I thought I was seeing a possible individual, or maybe two. And I started noticing that there's these trees out there, and I didn't know what they were. So I started to photograph in on them, kind of zooming in to see what they were. It kind of seemed out of place. It seemed like kind of an odd tree. And then I'd find the same thing on the opposite side. And I was like, okay, I'm just seeing things now. And this does happen. People see things in the woods and they will take a photograph. And I'm notoriously good at doing that. From a distance, it does look like individuals that are sitting here, or there's something sitting here. And when you zoom in on it, it's neither. It's just a tree. It's a tree there, there's a tree here. But from a distance, if you're looking at it, it does look like something or someone is standing here. A pair of them. Found more structures here and there. Thought this is pretty cool. Found something that resembles an A. Now, this is not a true A structure. This is a leaner, though. So this tree here is being held down by this log. But this tree is going over all these other logs. And it's shoved up in between this tree and this tree. And it sticks up and it ends here. It's been busted off. But then you have this tree that's also leaned up in here. And it's surrounded by all these other logs, and it's being held in place. And I can never figure out why there's always a debris field around a lot of these structures. I do find this one kind of intriguing. Here you have a tree that's fallen over, but it fell perfectly where it split along this tree, and you can see here's a split. But you have another tree that looks like it was pushed into it, and it's pressed down in between these trees. And then you have another tree that's over here that cuts through these trees, and it's supposed to be locking it off. That's kind of intriguing. That's a neat little find. All these trees were converging on top of me, making a large knot on top. Everybody, this is Patrick from Sasquatch and Wild. So I hope you enjoyed the journey. I will put out another video because I did enough video and recording on this one that would technically give me 2, possibly 3 more videos out of it, and that's still on Mount Massive side. So I will put out another video on Sunday or Monday, and I will try to hit Wednesday again. Again, my name is Patrick. This is Sasquatch in the Wild. I hope you enjoyed the journey. Please hit the like button, share, subscribe, and ring that bell, because all that stuff tells YouTube that you're interested in my content. Talk to you later.